Hi, I'm James from Borussia Dortmund English, and this is the Echte Liebe podcast. We finally have our Borussia Dortmund back with the start of the new Bundesliga season. The first of our competitive games, of course, began in the DFB Pokal against Schott Mainz, but there's nothing that quite compares to top-flight football in Germany. The game against Schott Mainz doesn't really need any analysis, as we achieved our aim of not becoming one of the high-profile first-round casualties such as Darmstadt and Bochum, but it still wasn't the perfect performance. Yes, we scored 6 goals, and yes, it's brilliant for our strikers and attacking midfielders to get on the score sheet, but there were a few cracks, most notably being pegged back to 2-1 against a team from the 4th tier of German football. But again, it was the cup, and as we see every year, there's a magic that only a knockout competition could create. One game in, all was well, and we finally had the chance to focus on the build-up to the opening day against FC Köln. I personally didn't know what to expect on match day 1. I think we can all agree that pre-season had its ups and downs, but on the whole we looked very good, and it was seen as a success. We of course picked up a few knocks, this is Borussia Dortmund after all, but everyone was seemingly available in the build-up, even if that meant regular starters such as Schlotterbeck and Adeyemi did have to play a part on the bench. Physically we weren't 100%, but we were close, and being at home against our friends and close neighbours in North Rhine-Westphalia, I really wasn't all that concerned as if we'd been travelling to Bayern or Leverkusen for example. You always want to start the season in the right way. There's a lot of expectation, and that's understandable. The fans have been waiting 3 months for the return of what is a huge aspect of their lives. For many of us, it's everything. It determines our mood, it tests us in ways we never thought it would, and that's because we give so much to our beloved club. For these reasons, a win is vital, and a win is what we got. So why is it that this time it didn't quite feel enough? In the build-up on game day, we heard that Marcel Sabitzer hadn't made it to the team hotel like the rest of the squad. Certain news outlets said that he was unavailable and that they didn't expect him to be in the team. It's certainly not the most ideal of starts to his Borussia Dortmund career, but all turned out well in the end. Maybe Marcel needs to do a little homework around navigating the city that he now calls home. Unfortunately for me, I was also sat at home and had to see all of the photos and videos that were being uploaded by both friends and other fans. I won't lie, jealousy doesn't quite cut it. But even from what I was seeing, I could feel the buzz that only a full Westfalenstadion can create. When the team news broke, it was as we would have expected. Hummels was starting instead of Schlotterbeck, and Royce was in for Adeyemi, both who were deemed not fit enough to play from the start. Listening back to that sounded really weird, saying that Marco is in the team solely because another player wasn't available. We've known this day or these scenarios have been coming for a long time, but it still doesn't make it any easier to accept. As the players made it out onto the pitch and lined up ready for kickoff, I did notice something that I think is extremely important. The cameras panned to Sebastian Kehl and Edin Terzic. They embraced and hugged at what seemed to be for a longer time than usual. With a pat on the back for Edin, they then took their usual seats. As we all know, this summer has been a tough one when it came to transfer targets and the vision that each of them had moving forward. It's been well publicised, even scrutinised, but seeing that togetherness and warmness that they both still have for each other really was a huge positive. And little did they know how much that positivity and resilience was going to be tested over the next 90 minutes. We can sum the game up overall as pretty uneventful. That's backed up by heading over to YouTube and seeing that the game highlights are only 1 minute and 3 seconds long. The first 10 minutes of the match consisted of a lot of short and slow passing across our back line. Köln did a fantastic job of keeping their shape and pressing at the right times. Leading that press was Davie Selke. He's one of those players that seems to have been around a lifetime, but he's still only 28. On his day, he's unplayable. He's big, he's strong, and on the 17th minute, we almost found that out the hard way. The Köln press worked perfectly, and with 2 passes, they were able to isolate Selke with Süle. As Hummels and Bensebaini scrambled back, Süle hit the floor as Davie Selke pulled the trigger. It looked like a certain opening goal, but somehow, whether it was intentional or not, Niklas Süle lifted his right leg just enough so that he was able to deflect the shot onto Gregor Kobel's crossbar. A big warning sign. Maybe it was time to wake up. But unfortunately, nothing really changed. It wasn't until the 30th minute that we finally created a chance and threatened Marvin Schwab's goal. Daniel Malin drifted inside and laid the ball to Mats Hummels. All 10 outfield players were in the Köln half. It was tight and compact as it had been before, and the passing just wasn't quick enough or direct enough. Mats had laid the ball to Ben Sabaini. Again he was closed down quickly, but he managed to play a ball in behind thanks to a brilliant run from Julian Brandt. Brandt went through down the left with his trademark turn and hit a left foot shot that was superbly saved by the aforementioned Schwab. At last, a spark, but that's all it was as half time came and went. For us, it was a very average first 45 minutes, but at least we had another 45 to put it right. For Köln, it was perfect. They just needed to keep doing what they were doing because we had absolutely no answer. We looked out of ideas. We seemed tired, and I hate to say it, disinterested. I expected changes at the half, but they didn't come as Edin must have believed that we already had enough to change it. Unfortunately for Edin, he was wrong. Nothing changed. In fact, it's safe to say that it got worse. The first 2 major chances of the second half came for the visitors. In the 53rd minute, Köln worked the ball perfectly down the right hand side to new signing Carstensen, and his ball across was met at the feet of Adamian by Kobel. He read it beautifully because if he hadn't, it would have been an almost certain tap-in for the Köln substitute. For the next 20 minutes, it seemed like a stalemate, where we were heading for a share of the spoils. But then came another huge chance for Köln. A ball over from the right, again by Carstensen, saw Adamian rise at the back post completely unmarked. He powered his header down towards the near post, but yet again, and this time wearing the captain's armband, Gregor Kobel made a game-saving stop. It looks like his presence will be vital in any success we are to have this season. Right now, he has to hold the title of the Bundesliga's best goalkeeper. Terzic had introduced Nemecha and Moukoko for Emre Can and the very quiet Sebastian Haller. It was a very strange game for Haller. He was completely starved of any chances thanks to Köln not allowing us to get in behind and deliver crosses. Not only that, but as soon as he was taken off, we started playing high direct balls that left Mookie with no chance. I guess the beauty of bringing on Nemecha with Moukoko is that we get the intensity and pace that Moukoko brings, but the loss of Haller's height and stature is made up for at set-piece situations by Nemecha. Karim Adeyemi was then introduced for Marco Reus, before Marius Wolf, and here's a name I didn't think I'd be mentioning, Torgan Hazard came on for Ben Sabaini and Julian Ryerson respectively. The changes didn't impact the pattern of the game as Köln still kept their shape and we struggled to make any meaningful space in behind. Köln were comfortable, ready to hit us on the counter whenever they won the ball back. They had one line of 4 and another of 5 that sat comfortably until the 88th minute when Julian Brandt trudged over to take a corner in front of the yellow wall. His deliveries throughout had been very good, but he'd saved his best until last. An outswinging ball to the near post was met by Nemecha, who flicked the ball on perfectly. Waiting at the back post completely unmarked for the first time all game was that man, Daniel Malin. Just as the game had been awkward and disjointed, so was Malin's finish. A swing of his right foot looked to have hit the ball off of his standing left leg, and it looped into the top corner. Not pretty at all. Far from perfect, but that's how it stayed and we opened up the campaign with an extremely important 3 points. Moving forward, we know that there needs to be a huge improvement. I can't quite put my finger on any one thing that caused the performance that we witnessed on Saturday. Maybe it was a number of things. It was the first competitive game at home since the heartbreak of last season. There's the pressure that brings mixed with a new captain and a fantastic pressing and positional game from the visitors. Those are just a few factors that could have contributed to it. But the issue that we're facing in our next game isn't just that we need to be better in all areas, but Bochum will feel exactly the same. After being knocked out of the DFB Pokal by Arminia Bielefeld, who are 2 tiers lower than themselves, and then with all due respect getting hammered on opening day away at a weakened Stuttgart, they'll know that nothing short of giving everything in their first game of the season at home will be unacceptable to their fans. It's not going to get any easier for ourselves. We remember the trip there last year and how that ultimately impacted how our season ended. So what's needed from ourselves on match day 2? First of all, the tempo needs to be better. We aren't a team that presses like we used to in years gone by. We seem content with a half-hearted effort, but that's where we're losing the battle in midfield. If Bochum are able to work the ball to Lasilla and Sturger, then we could be in real trouble. They'll look for their outlets in Antwi Ajay and Asano. Both are very capable runners, and if given enough space they will cause us huge problems just as Colin did. The press needs to start with Haller and then transition to the second attacking unit, whether that be Malen and Adeyemi or Brandt and Royce. If we allow those lines to be broken where Chan is isolated and the centre-backs are continually being turned, then we're going to be in for a long 90 minutes. Bochum will be looking to get on the front foot from the off, in front of a packed and noisy Ruhr Stadion. The best way to stop that from happening is to do exactly what they plan to do, but do it better. The biggest and most glaring issue when in possession against Cologne was that we just couldn't find a way to get Haller involved. He barely touched the ball, but that wasn't really down to him. Cologne were great in their press and from stopping the overlap and in turn stopping us putting any crosses into their box. The luxury that we may have against Bochum is that Adeyemi may be fit enough to start from the beginning. He's one of those players that even when pressed and in tight spaces can beat his man and break the line himself. That may be key to taking the game to them and getting on the front foot. If we can isolate Karim against our old boy Felix Paslak enough times, he'll no doubt create chances and stretch the line of 3 Bochum centre-backs in behind. An overall shift in energy and attitude is going to be key in us winning this game. If we look like we want to be there, if we enjoy the occasion and take the game to them, then I have no doubt that we'll be sat on 6 points by the end of match day 2. If you have managed to get this far in the show, then I'd like to say a huge thank you. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button, and if you want to support the show, you can become a Borussia Dortmund English member via the Patreon page. And this really does make a difference, so again, thank you. I'll put all of the links below, but for now, I'll see you all on the pages over the weekend. Take care everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Echte Liebe podcast.